Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils sweep the Blue Jays. What do you do with Otto Kemp? Zack Wheeler's retiring soon? There's so much to get into on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio for a little over 5 years here in the city of Philadelphia. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching us on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted so you never miss any big news like, I don't know, Zack Wheeler saying he's going to retire after his contract's up. So yeah, please do all that. It really helps us out, helps you out. So appreciate all of that. Let's start with just like the good stuff, and most of it's good for the Philadelphia Phillies. They sweep the Blue Jays. They won 5 of their last 6. They seem like they're back to themselves. Not only that, the Mets get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays up at Citi Field. So all of a sudden, NL East is down to 2.5 games, and the Phillies feel like they're in a great spot. And they're heading to Miami to play the Marlins. We're going to talk about that series and tonight's game 1 of that series in our final segment. We are going to talk about the kind of bombshell that was dropped by Zack Wheeler over the weekend that he's going to retire when his current deal is up with the Philadelphia Phillies. Maybe that's a good thing. And where we start is just a little recap of the series, but also some stuff with Otto Kemp. But the Phillies were awesome in this series. Their pitching has been amazing. Shout out to Zack Wheeler, who threw yesterday, and Christopher Sanchez, and Ranger Suarez, and basically everybody in the rotation at this point. They're dicing. They're the strong point of this team. Always have been, always will be with the 2025 Phillies. The rotation's monstrous. But the offense woke up heavy against the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, even just yesterday, Father's Day, but Nick Castellanos thought it was Granny Day. Yeah, grand slam by Nick Castellanos. The Phils scored double-digit runs. They take the Blue Jays down comfortably in the final game of the series. Like, this was just a nice, easy series for the Phillies where they really took it to the Toronto Blue Jays. Revenge on their mind? Maybe. And a lot of great offensive performances in this series. I mean, pretty much just the Phils offense in general is rolling. So things are all good, right? Well, things get tricky when things are all good and you don't have your normal lineup put together. Like, all of this is happening without Bryce Harper on the team. He's currently on the injured list, and he's not going to be there forever. He's going to come back. So another guy that's tearing the cover off the ball right now. He had 4 hits yesterday in the series finale. Otto Kemp. Now, I could just go down the box score. I could list you all the ways the Phillies beat the Blue Jays this weekend. But I want to get into a little bit more of an intriguing topic to me because basically everybody played well. Guys are starting to hit. Pitchers are great. Bullpen was fine. Everything's good, right? Everything's good with the Phillies from that series with the Blue Jays. It went perfectly. But let's look at the current roster construction and get ahead of a problem that's going to be coming soon. Bryce Harper is going to be back from the injured list relatively soon with his wrist soreness. Then they're going to play him. He's not coming back to sit on the bench. And he's not going to DH because that's Kyle Schwarber's spot. You don't want to compromise Schwarber and put him at risk by having him play left field, potential injury, hurting the team defensively, all that stuff. Like, he played left field on Sunday, but still, that's not a regular thing for Kyle Schwarber. So where does Bryce Harper fit? Well, at first base, of course, unless he moves to the outfield ahead of the trade deadline, but that's still over a month away. Otto Kemp is crushing the baseball right now. Well, maybe not crushing. He's not really hitting for power, but he's sitting in the 340s in his time in the majors. Small sample size. But if you're watching Otto Kemp right now at the dish and you're saying, nah, I'm cool with him going back down to the minors or anything. I'm cool with him not being on this team. You're watching something different than me. I want Otto Kemp as a part of this baseball team. But how do you do it? Because when Bryce Harper comes back, well, then you're going to have to figure out who goes down. So let's think about this logically, right? In the infield, you have JT catching, you have Harp, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Sosa. Those are your infielders. And then, of course, Otto Kemp. In the outfield, Kepler in left, Castellanos in right, Marsh and Rojas splitting time in center, Weston Wilson as an additional bat and an outfield guy that you can use in the corners if need be. He hasn't been very, very good. But when you look at this team, say, okay, you need outfield depth. You do. You can't just have 4 outfielders, can you? Well, I don't think they're going to do that. Maybe they should, and I'll make that case a little bit later on as we're talking about this. But if you're looking for who gets sent down when Harper comes back, well, I mean, you've only got one backup infield. And don't forget Rafael Marchand, backup catcher. He's not going anywhere. You need a backup catcher. JT's not catching every single game. Somebody's got to get sent down, and it's not going to be Edmundo Sosa. It's not going to be any of the starters. Like Stott, no shot. Bohm's hitting really, really well. Turner is like leading the National League in hits still. Like you kind of have to send Otto Kemp back down, right? That's your only option. And that's what's tough about this, because I want Otto Kemp continuing to swing the bat for this baseball team. But if you're asking me Kemp or Harper, well, it's a no-brainer. It's Harper. And if you're asking me Kemp or Sosa, well, because of defensive versatility, it's probably a no-brainer. It's Sosa. So do the Phillies, potentially, this would be tough. Do they send Weston Wilson down? Do they DFA Weston Wilson? If they do that, their outfield is then Kepler, Marsh, Rojas, Castellanos. Those are the 4 guys. I guess Schwarber can play the outfield if needed, so that can add a little bit more depth to that, even though he's just a DH. So maybe that allows them to send Weston Wilson down. The other thing that you may think about is Otto Kemp in AAA. They were trying to get him some work in the outfield, out there in left field, because that was a weak spot for the Philadelphia Phillies. And then you can move stuff around if he can play out there. Well, in his time up so far, he has played nowhere but third base and first base. Clearly, the Phillies are terrified of playing him in the outfield. He's just not ready out there. And I got to be honest, I haven't heard a lot that says he's going to be fine at the major league level playing in the outfield. So you're taking away a spot from a weak outfield unit, right? And they look better recently. Castellanos with a grand slam. Kepler started to show off some pop. Marsh is starting to figure it out. Rojas has really come into his own as far as what his role on this team is and not trying to do too much. Like, those 4 guys have been better over the past week or so. But is that enough? Like, Kyle Schwarber as your kind of emergency 5th outfielder doesn't feel like a sound strategy to me. Otto Kemp would have to probably play outfield at some point. Maybe they'll let him do that, but I don't know if it's enough to weaken the outfield, which has been the weakest part of this team as far as position players are concerned. It's still the bullpen for overall. But will you take a guy away from the outfield to make sure Otto Kemp stays on this team? I don't know, but I kind of have to say yeah. And honestly, I would probably play him out in the outfield in the corners for Max Kepler as a right-handed bat next time you face a lefty and see if that works. Like, you got to start figuring this out, because Harper's going to be back sooner rather than later. And that leaves a guy who's really been hitting the ball well. Young player, not that young, 25, but still young player who just made his major league debut like a couple weeks ago or like a week and a half ago. Without a home on this team. And if he's not going to play left field, well, what? He's not going to play over Harper at first. He's not going to play over Bohm at third. He's not going to DH for Schwarber. He doesn't get on the field unless he plays the outfield. And the Phillies have seemed hesitant, to put it lightly, to play Otto Kemp out there, not just at the major league level, but at the AAA level as well. So as great as Otto Kemp has been, you now have to worry about how you keep the guy on the team, and none of the strategies exactly seem like good ones for the young bat for the Fighting Phils. But hey, he's been a nice spark for them. Nick Castellanos spoke glowingly about him after the game, or as glowingly as Castellanos speaks of anything or anyone at any time. But he did talk about how having a young player like that in the clubhouse can kind of rejuvenate a team. Seeing him be all excited day in and day out because he's doing this for the first time reminds the guys, hey, we're Major League ball players. We're lucky to be doing this. It lightens it up a little bit. You get to see how hard that guy works and showing up early and everything like that. Castellanos said he's showing up like 8 hours before the game. So Kemp is a guy I want to see stay on this team. I just don't know how realistic that is. And that's something to keep an eye on because, man, I don't want to see this hot stretch stop for the Phillies. And he's one of the hot bats right now in the lineup. And Bryce Harper coming back, great, right? You can't say no to anything with Bryce Harper. Like, take your extra time. No, if he's good to go, he's better than Otto Kemp. Hands down, not even close. And I can't believe I even have to say that. But I just want to make that point clear. I just like them both. And finding a way to do that, well, Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thompson, they have their work cut out for them with that roster move once Bryce Harper is back. We're not there yet. We will be there soon, probably later on this week, would be my guess. I don't know exactly when Bryce Harper is due back, but that's my estimate based on the injured list retroactive date. Now, this is not an estimate. This is straight from the horse's mouth. Zack Wheeler has said when he's hanging it up. And it's soon, relatively. But we're going to kind of talk through all of this and why it may be a good thing for the Philadelphia Phillies that Zack Wheeler's handling things the way that he is, even though it sucks to sit here today and think about and talk about Bryce Harper, Zack Wheeler retiring from baseball. We'll talk about that coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about some new friends here. Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, what are you doing? Did you wait? Did you call him back? No, you called the next guy. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Maybe you've juggled 2 phones just to keep up with your business and personal calls and keep those separate. Open Phone, well, they solve that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this or circling back on that. Has anyone taken care of this? No. And the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never miss a customer again. And Open Phone is offering Locked On Phillies listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's Open Phone, OPEN, Open Phone, PHONE.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. So you don't even have to learn a new number. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. Go ahead and check them out. This is some news to get as we came out of a weekend where everybody's happy. Everything's good for the Phillies. Zack Wheeler just threw a gem. And then you kind of hear yesterday he's retiring. No. Slow down. He's not retiring right now. He's retiring at the end of the 2020 season. He said yesterday, I'm hanging it up when my current contract with the Philadelphia Phillies is over, which would be the end of the 2027 season. Now, that's 2.5 years from now. 2027, as we sit in June of 25, doesn't feel that far away. And really, it's not. You get to, it's kind of like, I don't mean to make it light or use levity on it because near-death experiences are serious things, but it's kind of like that. You're not dead, but you consider your mortality a lot more often and a lot more seriously. Seeing Zack Wheeler or hearing Zack Wheeler say, 2027 season's done, I'm done. You now consider, you start thinking, wow, how close that is. How much we've gotten out of him, how much more there is still to get. Who is he as far as a Hall of Fame candidate? All of these things. Where does he rank as an all-time Philly? Just last week, I believe it was, I did an episode saying, does Zack Wheeler get the proper appreciation? Well, he will now because we've only got 2.5 more years left. Now he's going to play out his contract. And also, you got to remember, this guy's what, 34 years old, 35 years old? Let me get the exact age on Zack Wheeler for you. I literally looked it up today, but I'm just not remembering at this moment. He is 35 years old as of this moment. So 2.5 more years, you're talking about a 37-plus-year-old pitcher. And that's where the part of the conversation comes in about this is, in my opinion, probably a good thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. Because Zack Wheeler is showing no signs of slowing down. Not at all. No, he's still dominant and hopefully continues to be for the remainder of this contract with the Phillies through the 2027 season. I want him to go out on top. I think he does as well, which is part of the reason why he's already saying, I'm going to hang it up. But work through a scenario for me. All right, think about this. Zack Wheeler is dominant the rest of this year. He's dominant next year. He's dominant in 2027. Maybe like a slight fall off as he gets into his age 37 season. But in there, he wins a Cy Young. In there, the Phillies win another National League pennant. I don't know. Maybe they win the World Series. But they have team success. He has postseason success. He has individual award success. He's just the guy he looks like right now and continues to be that guy. 2027 rolls around. He's not under contract. He's going to go to free agency. He's 37 plus years old. You know what the Phillies start thinking? Well, do we re-sign Zack Wheeler? Do we commit amount of money to Zack Wheeler that seems hefty for where he's at in his career? Well, he hasn't shown signs of slowing down yet, and other teams are going to pay him. He's going to get expensive, but we can't imagine life without Zack Wheeler the same way we're talking about can't imagine life without Kyle Schwarber. Now, Schwarber's a little bit younger, and it's coming up this year, so that's not a perfect example, but my point is this. I have 3 names for you. Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander. Now, Kershaw is making a little bit less than those other 2, but Verlander and Scherzer, on those Mets contracts that Steve Cohen gave them, they were in their late 30s, and they were getting paid, or maybe even like the early 40s. I forget the full age, but they were late 30s. And Steve Cohen threw the bag at them, and it fell apart, and it set back the Mets. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter for Steve Cohen because he's got all the money in the world, and he'll just throw it at somebody else, and he'll just trade those guys and eat those deals because $100 million, $500 million, nothing to Steve Cohen. He's got billions on billions. But you don't want to get yourself into a situation where it's like, well, Wheeler wants to keep throwing. We feel like we owe it to him to sign him. We can't imagine not signing him. We don't want him to go to a division rival or anything like that, or another team in the National League that could contend for a World Series. Like, you don't want Zack Wheeler to pitch for another team for the rest of his career. But the Phillies would have a tough decision to make as to whether or not to pay him, right? He's given you everything. He's giving you a Cy Young. He's giving you an NL pennant. And I'm talking in this hypothetical situation. I know he has not won a Cy Young award yet. It's not hard to project out and say he could win one in the next 2.5 years. But then you want to give out the quote-unquote thank you contracts. We saw it with the Phillies after 2008, right? That core aged out through 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then in 13, that team they were still trying to hang on. So they were signing guys that they should not have been signing, guys that they should have cut ties with and let go. But it's an emotional decision. It's hard to allow guys like Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley to walk. But sometimes it's better that you do move on before it becomes too late and you go into a 10-year playoff drought. Zack Wheeler is taking that off the table for the Phillies. And that actually, I think, is a good thing because now you don't have to worry about, do we pay the guy or not? Do we extend the guy or not? Do we let him get to free agency? Is this thing we wonder about? Do we throw the bag at him because the Mets are throwing the bag at him? Do we counter other teams' offers for Zack Wheeler because he's a Philly and to us he always will be? I love that he's made this decision already because it takes that choice out of the equation for you. And really, I could see the Phillies throwing in that, 3-year, $100 million contract to a guy at 37 that'll take him through his age 40 season, and nobody looks all that good when they get to 38, 39, 40. From a baseball perspective, if you're out there and you're 38, 39, 40, listen to this, I'm sure you look great. But that's why I don't have an issue with what's going on with Zack Wheeler, because At that point, he will be retirement age for a Major League Baseball player. And he's letting the Phillies know and the rest of the league know. And he's going out on his own terms. And it's a wonderful thing that I think works out for everybody. The bad part of it is now we are faced with our own mortality, if I can form my words. We're forced to face the thought of Zack Wheeler no longer pitching for the Phillies. But you'd rather do it this way than just throw the bag at him. He stinks. He's a shell of himself. You have to eat the contract. He sets you back money. He costs you other players that can help you win from 2028 on. No, you don't want to be in those situations. So credit to Zack Wheeler for saying, hey, this is when I'm hanging it up. Kind of a wild time for that news to just come out, but he likes to plan it out, and the Phillies will benefit from knowing that that is his plan, and they will also save money by not paying a guy like Verlander or Scherzer like the Mets did and hamstringing themselves when it comes to cap. So, or not cap, but just payroll in general, because obviously there's no true cap in Major League Baseball. But it sucks to think about Zack Wheeler retiring. We still have a lot of time. The one last thing I'll say on this before we preview the Phillies series with the Miami Marlins down there in South Beach, continue to appreciate every time Zack Wheeler is on the mound. We now have a finite amount of those, and we always did, but we now know, hey, he's done at X point. You have this many times to watch this guy throw a baseball competitively again. You better watch every last one of them, or at least the ones that you do see, make sure that you're appreciating them, because he is a stud, and you saw it again this weekend. Coming up next, as I said, we're going to preview the Phillies series with the Marlins, just overall expectations. It's kind of a dangerous series here, and not because the other team's good, but because of where it sits on the schedule. We'll talk about that coming up next as we wrap up today's episode. Let's talk about Supply House, because if you need to get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, then Supply House is your place to go. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Maybe you need help with an order. Well, then Supply House is even better for you. They offer expert support and industry-leading service, so you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, make sure you use promo code SH5. That's S as in supply, H as in house, the number 5, for 5% off your first order. There's nowhere better to get your supplies for the skilled trades. Yeah, no, it's Supply House. Go ahead and check them out at supplyhouse.com. Phil's Marlins, a tricky spot for your fighting Phillies, and I'll tell you why. It's 4 games down in South Beach, and all that I've heard about this series through radio this morning, through talking to people over the weekend, as you look ahead at the upcoming schedule, is Mets, 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 Mets. They're not playing the Mets tonight. Tonight, they face Sandy Alcantara and the Miami Marlins. But it is kind of one of those weird spots of the schedule where you can lose focus on a series. You just played the Cubs, took 2 of 3. Then you get the Blue Jays at Citizens Bank Park. A little bit of revenge. And you win that series. Not only win it, you sweep that series. You've won 5 of the last 6 against some quality opponents. You have a huge division matchup with the Mets starting on Friday. You're heading down to sleepy South Beach, where there's going to be nobody in the building. You're playing a much lesser team in the Miami Marlins, who are one of the basement dwellers in Major League Baseball. You can't lose sight of this series. Now, what I will say is it's not a freak-out series one way or another, because guess what? Let's say the Phillies go down to Miami and win all 4 games. Yeah, another sweep. They'll have won 7 straight. They'll have won, 9 of their last 10. They'll be rolling. And then they come back home, and the Mets take all 3 from them, and they sweep them out. Will you feel better about that Marlins series, or will you completely forget Marlins, Blue Jays, Cubs, anything and say, damn, this team can't beat the Mets. Yeah, I know. And I probably will too, which is why if the Phillies split with the Marlins 2-2 in this 4-game series, I'm not going to lose my mind. Now, it would be disappointing. It would mean they were not playing their best baseball down there because they should beat this team 3 times out of 4. At least the Phillies should beat this Marlins team. If I know there's a bigger series coming, that if it was positive then negative, it would have wiped out all the positive. Well, if it's negative, and then the Phillies go take care of business against the Mets, and it's all positive, shouldn't that wipe out the negative, right? By logic, it would seem that it would, which then would say whatever the result of this Marlins series, it's all going to be completely overshadowed by however you play against the Mets. So not that important of a series, but au contraire. What I was just saying about the sleepy series in Miami that you may overlook, that's exactly the point that I just made there as well. And I believe what I was saying, but you have to play your best. You just can't, as fans, we can't overreact to the series down there with the Marlins. Now, if they do, if they lose all 4 to the Marlins, I'm going to lose it. I really will. I'll be very, very upset with this team. But at the end of the day, you have to understand this is not the main event, right? This is the opener, and the main event starts Friday at the bank against the Mets. So tempering expectations, no. Understanding potential bad outcomes are going to just be forgotten about in 3 games one way or another anyway. That's something that's important. Now, I do expect the Phillies to win 3 of 4. I don't expect a 4-game sweep. But it starts with tonight because tonight's kind of a sneaky big matchup. You have Mick Abel on the mound for the Phillies, looking to bounce back from his first career tough outing. He didn't take the loss in the game, but he had a tough one against the Cubs. Gave up 3 home runs. He wasn't crazy shelled, but he didn't look his best. Now he's going to be facing a much lesser lineup in the Miami Marlins, a team that's 28-41. So almost exactly the opposite record of the Phillies, who are 42-29. But he's also going up against Sandy Alcantara. Now, people hear Sandy Alcantara, and they're like, wow, that's a tough matchup for the Philadelphia Phillies. He has got a 7.14 ERA this year. Yeah, just 2 years removed from winning the National League Cy Young. That dude, 2 years? 3 years removed? I forget exactly when he won it. You know what? I should know that off the top of my head. But it wasn't that long ago that he was a Cy Young pitcher. And now he's got an ERA in the 7s. Well, I guess part of that is the wear and tear of playing for a team in Miami that never really competes. But the Phillies can get after him. He's only given up 8 home runs. He's walked 31 batters in 63 innings, though. So if you're going to beat Alcantara, you got to be selective. He's also only struck out 50 in 63 innings, which shows you his strikeout stuff has just disappeared. But can he still go out there and have a great start once in a blue moon? Suppose so. He's won 3 games this year with that Miami Marlins lineup behind him. Meanwhile, Abel is going to give us the first look at how he bounces back from adversity, how he makes the adjustment. So that's a very intriguing part of tonight's game as well. If the Phillies can win tonight, well, they're pretty well set up because Mick Abel's kind of the only question mark in the rotation right now, and I wouldn't even call him a full question mark. Luzardo throws tomorrow. We're going to be talking plenty about Luzardo facing his old team and the motivation that gives him, especially coming off of a great start his last time out. Then you got Ranger, then you got Sanchez. You're going to be fine the rest of this series pitching-wise, and not that you're not fine with Mick Abel, but this is the one swing game. They've got their, I guess, ace, even though the numbers don't show it. Sandy Alcantara is kind of their guy still, or was their guy at least at some point, and still has a little bit of that swagger to him, even though the results have not been there. Mick Abel is the I've only thrown 3 games at the major league level guy for the Philadelphia Phillies, this unproven young guy that we're still trying to figure out exactly who he is, though he's shown some very, very bright spots. So tonight's a big game. Also with the righty Alcantara on the mound, you know who's a guy who's sneaky seen him well over the course of his career? Bryson Stott, who's been one of the few Phillies who has not heated up with the rest of the offense recently. If Stott's playing, and I expect him to be, look for maybe him to get going. Maybe a 2-hit performance tonight for Bryson Stott. I would love to see that. He really needs to have a bit of a breakout, and maybe it'll come in this game. But either way, Phillies should take 3 or 4. I feel good about saying that. I feel good about predicting that. And if it doesn't happen and it's split, or even let's say they take 1 of 4, we're on to the Mets. The Mets are who we're focused on as soon as this series is over, but not before, or you might overlook the Marlins. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to talk more about what happened in tonight's game and just the series overall. We're also going to take a look at that Jesus Luzardo revenge factor for the Marlins trading him away and plenty more. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you again for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.